Let's explore autistic history and the Autism Wars. This is part 98 of a series. All right, so I broke pattern with the last video and was sharing something I had written back in 2008 about learning to accept my autistic son. And this era when my son, I'm speaking to one of my most, regrettable parenting moments, and I've got a few, don't we all? It's not my favorite, but trying to push the issue of teaching my oldest son to ride a bike, and that did not go over well. I am in my 20s here, and probably 27 or 28 at the time, and very much trying to do my best as a parent for my child in all the ways that society tells me and pushes me, and I'm masking so much in this era because I just haven't. Yeah, right when I become a mother, I mask pretty hard trying to be what a mother is supposed to be, but at some point I come back out with the purple hair and stuff, but I'm still very much influenced by what I think is appropriate developmental timelines, including riding a bike in this era, and it takes me some time to realize this just isn't that. We have a different path, a different journey in front of us. So now I'm going to share the last part of this article with you, but I just want to say when we know better, we do better. That's my goal every day. Not a perfect parent, and I certainly didn't know everything that I know now back then at all. So all I can do is evolve more, right, as a parent. And so I think that's the message I want to give to other parents, that there's always time to learn, to grow, and find better ways. This section is titled Acceptance. It says, just over a year ago, Jared's diagnosis helped us find him a school with an autism program. Nowadays, mostly I'm shouting out about his triumphs. I share with family and friends his dreams of becoming a wildlife conservationist, or that he's crazy about Indiana Jones, Pirates of the Caribbean, and Naruto. I let them know he's made a gaggle of friends, and he gets asked to sleepovers and birthday parties. Mind you, these are autistic peers and friends that he has that are doing sleepovers and birthday parties together. They built quite a community together in this program. So it says here, Jared's recent progress has felt like a miracle. Everyone's rejoiced. Everyone's rejoicing. So why was I so freaked out? It took me a couple of days, and after a rant to their father to work through this, I worked through it. But what I discovered, the problem wasn't Jared. The problem was me. Me. Sometime after his diagnosis, my expectations switched back to default mode. Now that Jared had support, he'd get right back on track. He'd graduate high school and go to college. His meltdowns and setbacks would be a thing of the past. Heck, one day he would even get married and make me some grandbabies. What did I forget? Oh yeah, Jared still had autism. That's right, the key component to all of this, I just glossed over it. Mentally, I put us back on the everything is going to be okay forever and ever track. Society's milestones of youth and adulthood applied again. I box us right back into the pretty package of social norms. When Jared didn't behave according to that plan, when he didn't keep up his end of my fantasy, I had my own meltdown. And the truth is, or was, still is, I'm scared. I don't know what life for Jared is going to be like as an adult. I don't know that he'll graduate high school or college with his peers or ever. What other parents can expect, I can't. But what I do know, before I can ask the world to accept or have tolerance for people with autism, I have to do it first. I have to accept Jared for exactly who he is and let him set the pace. This means no more preconceived deadlines or we're on the right track checklists. I had to stop and take a deep breath, shove aside my fear, look at my son and love him. We'll do this together. We already are. Now it's like, oh, how many years later? 10, 15, how long ago was this written? My gosh, 2008, so it's a ways back. Yeah, 15 years now? I think, I don't know, 20? No, somewhere. It's been some years. You do the math. And I wish I could report that life is going well and life is happening. And we found appropriate services. We found appropriate work accommodations. We found, no, none of this happened. None of it. At all. The hope I had back then, the hope that was instilled in me in these autism organizations I did not understand at the time, was a false hope. A brighter future they were speaking about was not about my children at all. It was not about our community at all. I wish I could say I knew success stories out of this group of students, peers, autistic peers. But I don't. Every story I know from those kids hasn't turned out very well. And the reality is, even with all these years of autism awareness, campaigning, all this hoopla around autism, all this, I don't know what they think are improvements, all this success rates that they like to talk about, all these things that they have, none of it in all these years has changed the outcomes for autistic adults. We are not having better quality of lives. We are not having community support. We are not having even basic access to appropriate health care, or even appropriate access, accommodated access to appropriate health care. Our early death rates are astronomically high, with our number one cause of early death being to unalive ourselves. And this is, I can't tell you the stress of that. I mean, I had a 7-year-old child who had those ideations. He grew up and went through high school with those ideations. He is now an adult, and goodness knows it's not any better these days. It's actually a lot worse, I think, for him. But that's the whole thing, is once we get out of the kid era, what's left out here is devastation, homelessness, incarceration as care, early deaths, unaliving. Median age of death is, 36 or so? I mean, I've seen a few numbers, but this is not because we're dying of autism. It's because of the intolerance society has for differences and the intolerance they have for us. And our help is to make us pretend to be, we're not autistic. That's what's happening. And so it's not pretty out here. There are some success stories, and I love hearing them now, but I think right now the majority of that is unreasonable for most of us to succeed out there. And yeah, but going together, maybe there's a better way going forward when we can see real results happening in the autistic population, statistics about these things, and improvement in these things. Then we will have succeeded in something, but not until then.